Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky. And we're back this week with what I would call a normal episode of Joe on Joe Illustrated. That's right. Thank you to all you listeners out there who gave me a listen last week and heard our very special quote-unquote lost silent issue of G.I. Joe, Silent in the Zoo. And I really appreciate you guys who reached out to send some kind words my way. It was a fun project that hatched. I couldn't give the thank you on the show itself because I didn't want to, as in wrestling terms, break the kayfabe of it all. But it was a hatched idea between myself, your host Joe Slepsky, and my good friend Matt Plossman, who's a contributor and listener to the show, and friend of the show, certainly friend. We had that idea, that kind of hatched the idea of like, what were they doing during it? And originally it was just a throwaway joke from the Columbo episode. So then we said, well, let's actually figure that out. And then I went off and I wrote Silent in the Zoo, name, to thematically sound like interlude, etc., so on and so forth. So I know it was long and it was a thought experiment, but it was very fun. So I appreciate you guys indulging me that listen. I certainly had a good time doing it, and if anything, I think it shows you guys how much I absolutely adore comics in this era of comic books and all that stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, because I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Now this week we are covering G.I. Joe number 136. The Ninja Force continues. The Snake Eyes takeover of the book continues. There's a whole lot of continuation there. I'll tell you what else continues before we get into it is, first of all, what else continues is the tremendous sponsor support from our wonderful sponsor, the Movies in a Meal podcast. Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts. And you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie. It's about not two movies. It's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show. They've been absolutely fabulous. So make sure you give them a listen. Follow them on social, things like that. While you're on social doing that, follow me at Joe and Joe Pod. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. Let me know, did you finally get through the entire hour and 45 minutes of Silent in the Zoo? Are you still working on it? It's funny. It was basically improvised. The whole thing was improvised. I wrote some notes, and then I was creating it in my head as I spoke. So then I had to go back through and erase, not mistakes per se, but silences. So there would be 2 seconds of silence as my brain was racing to catch up of the image that was in the back of my head. And I was trying to express that. And so I tightened up. I think I cut out almost 15 minutes of just quick pauses. So so you guys are lucky you didn't get the Will Shatner version. That was just me describing a panel. Anyway, so but thank you guys for following me on socials. Any rating and reviewing is fabulous. If you want to check me out on Patreon, patreon.com/JoeandJoePod. Help support the show. We do more fun things like Silent in the Zoo, like G.I. Columbo, like Cold Slither, like my favorite ninjas. Or did we call it my special missions? I forget what we called it. My special missions, that's what we ended up calling it. It was supposed to be my favorite ninjas. And my special missions and things like that. So I got a few more ideas down the road. Hopefully we'll do some more stuff. And also what was awesome this week is the new wave, at least it was new to me. I think it's been out for a couple weeks now, actually, but it was brought to my attention that the new wave of the Super 7 figures are out. And I got the Joe signal. I immediately hit the website. I immediately noticed that they jacked the price up $2 a piece. But I got to be honest with you, the quality on this latest batch of Super 7s are amazing. The shipwreck figure alone, you look at that, it's got the rope and the hook and poly. It's like, okay, yeah, I could see that. It's an extra $2. Zartan, amazing. The Battle Android Trooper is awesome. For $2 extra, that makes a little bit of sense. Then you go, oh, well, CoverGirl's pretty basic. But she looks great, but she doesn't have all the, she doesn't like come with a Wolverine. But those figures all look great. I know that that it is a higher price point for, what seems to be simpler figures. But the aesthetic quality of them is awesome. I think they really look good. I kind of can't wait to make space somewhere in a home someplace to display these. I got them all stowed away in nice star cases, and one day they're going to look just knockout on the wall. So that was cool. So if you guys haven't gotten your new wave, I think it's wave 4 of the Super 7s, check those out, because I really do think they look great. And I am a sucker for any Shipwreck action figure. I think Shipwreck is just absolute fan. I have a carded Shipwreck that I adore. Always one of my favorite figures. Always one of my favorite characters on the cartoon. Never used enough in the comic book until they got to the Devil's Due stuff, when they kind of made him a little more like, modern, but also modern. It's funny, modern stereotyping. I actually reread. So since we're doing Joe and Joe Illustrateds, I don't reread anything kind of close to where I'm at with the comic book, but I have the G.I. Joe Transformers trades, which collects all the Devil's Due stuff, those crossovers they did. So I figured it was safe to read those without getting too confused in my head or anything. And I forgot how much those crossovers all really connected, because they would come out and I'd read them and I enjoyed them, and then months and months would go by and they'd come up with another one, and I just assumed it was but when you really read them back to back to back to back, it's a nice, fun, continuing alt universe take on the origins of G.I. Joe and Transformers. It was a whole lot of fun, so I really enjoyed doing that. Yeah, maybe we'll cover those on Joe Illustrated one day. I don't know. We got a long ways to go till we get there. A long way to go and a short time to get there. And so,
you were saying?
I was saying. And G.I. Joe, starring Snake Eyes, 136 came out in May of 1993. Cover dated May of 1993. And over in the Batman world, there's a whole lot of Batman stuff. So what we do in this segment, for you new listeners, we talk about comic books that were on the shelf the same month as the G.I. Joe issue in question. So when this issue was sitting on the shelf, it was also sitting there with early Nightfall issues. So we're talking Batman 492, 493. Batman was coming out bi-weekly at that point. And they were ramping up towards Nightfall, the breaking of Batman's back. So this is the point in the story where all of his villains were getting broken out of Arkham. This looks like he's fighting Mad Hatter in 492. It might be, it's Mr. Zaz in 493. Yeah, so this is gearing up. In about a month's time, we should be into some major Batman stuff. But there's a lot of Bat books on the shelf. You also got Batman Adventures 8, Legends 45, Shadow of the Bat 12. Then if we roll down to Detective Comics, we've got 2 issues of Detective Comics as well. 659, who he's fighting Amygdala, and 660, where it's Killer Croc and it looks like Bane, and they've got Robin tied up. So there's a lot of Batman on the shelf this month. I can't remember if I mentioned this about the passing of Alan Grant. He wrote a lot of these Batmans that I've raved about in this segment over the last few years. Really, really great Batman writer. And then this week we lost Tom Palmer, who was a absolute stunner of an inker, an artist. He did mostly his work with Marvel. He did most all of the early Star Wars stuff. Fabulous runs on Avengers. Just really lush, rich, realistic brush rather for inking. And yeah, just an absolute icon. And he's an inker, so a lot of people don't know his name, a lot of people don't know his influence, but when you see his inks and you know it, you can kind of go, oh, that's a Tom Palmer ink job. That's really, really great. So rest in peace to both those absolute legends. So a lot of Batman this month. The Death High Cost of Living issue number 3. If you haven't watched Sandman, do so. We were visited in Golden Apple Comics the other day by the actor who plays Desire. Mason was their first name. Fabulous, wonderful. It's brief role in the show, I would say. A couple of appearances, but that character has a bigger arc later. But memorable and very nice in person. Really cool. Got along great. Very friendly, very nice to meet them. And it was nice to be able to thank someone for a piece of art that I really appreciated, which is the Sandman TV show. It's fantastic. You guys should check it out if you haven't. Legionnaires number 2. This is the start of it's a Fatal 5 crossover. So they started right. They were smart. They did Fatal 5 to open up the Legionnaires series. And this is a 4-part or 5-part. I think it's a 4-part connective cover drawn by Chris Sprouse that connects. Well, I guess it'd be 5 because it's got to be a 5-part because it's the Fatal 5. So it connects all the Fatal 5 members fighting against Legion, the young Legion. So when you put them all together, it makes a nice little connective cover. I always enjoy connective covers. News Time: The Life and Death of the Man of Steel. This is the fake Newsweek magazine that DC published during the months that Superman was not being published. So this is not an expensive back issue to pick up. You can get one for $10. I know we literally have one at the shop right now, and it's really worth it because it's an actual magazine full with with advertisements that would exist in Metropolis at the time, multiple types of stories. I believe there's an article about the missing newsman Clark Kent, like we can't miss Clark Kent's missing, like that kind of a story. It's awesome. And if it gives you an insight into my brand of comedy / stuff that I write with Columbo or with the Cold Slither, it is a lot of this news time kind of thing. I love in-world artifacts. I love things that are adjacent to the story, that help prop up and make the story a little more real and give background filler. That's my kind of like art project. It's my kind of like story to tell. The whole like the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of it all. So this is a fun artifact like that. This News Time magazine. It's pretty neat. And otherwise, gorgeous cover on the Spectre number 6. But yeah, otherwise relatively Batman's taking all the heat this month.
You were saying?
Now over at Marvel Comics, we've got Cardiac over in Spider-Man. I believe he just debuted for the first time just a few months ago. This is the return of Cardiac. Avengers West Coast. They've only got about 6 months until they get canceled and turned into Force Works. Get ready for that. Luke Cage is fighting a tidal wave, I think. Seems like an odd cover for Luke Cage, but okay. Cable number 1. Cable's, it's funny. The popularity that Deadpool has today, I think Marvel wanted and thought that Cable was going to have at the time. And he certainly was very popular. Do not get me wrong. I'm not besmirching the popularity of Cable. He was absolutely very popular. The mystery around who he was and all that stuff. So I'm not taking anything away from it. But his popularity waned over the years. Once you kind of found out like who and what he was, people kind of lost interest in him. And then that heat shifted to Deadpool, who at the time, people didn't really care all that much about Deadpool. They were interested in him. And, he got a mini series here and there. But it wasn't until Joe Kelly took it over and made him a little more fourth wall breaking that people fell in love with the character. So this was Cable's first series, and it was a two-parter. I'm sorry. This is the first issue of his regular series. The two-parter was the John Romita Jr. covers two-parter, and this is actual regular series. It would run 100 issues, I think, or like 99 issues. And there were ups and downs in it. There actually were some arcs of the Cable series that were really good. But it's a weird, for someone who gets 100 issues under his belt, you never hear anyone talking about like that great arc of Cable or the Cable collected editions, like it's just not a thing. That even he was even in Deadpool 2, like he was portrayed by Thanos. What's his face? The Goonie. And Cable didn't get any love. It's almost like his series was a lot of supportive commentary for the X-Men series, right? Like in a way, the Wolverine series functions like that. Now I would say this: Wolverine certainly has had a few runs that are collectible and mentionable. Larry Hama obviously did a really nice run when he had Silvestri penciling him, and later on Mark Miller's run is actually really good. Loeb had a few mini runs, I wouldn't call them runs, but mini arcs that were pretty memorable with like the Sabretooth fights and things like that. But for the most part, those two books are real similar, except the heat on Cable as a character never really sustained, and yet he still gets 100 issues out of this series. It's wild. What else? Excalibur. Oh, this is Micromax is in Excalibur. I like Micromax. He was like a British Atom, Atom, like the Atom, but for Marvel. And and it was their version of the Atom, but he was British, and he certainly never took off in any kind of popularity. I'm not even going to try to say that, but he would show up in Excalibur and be a part of the team for a while, and I always enjoyed it. Moon Knight 50. This is actually a really cool die cut cover, and a good reason for a die cut cover. Probably one of the best die cut covers that Marvel's ever done. It's Mark Spector burning his Avengers ID card, and then the die cut is the fire that cuts through the cover, and then you see a picture of the Avengers on the inside. It's pretty cool. I would say the only way it would be better is if the burn hole was entirely contained in the card, right? So if it wasn't breaking that fourth wall, that cover fourth wall, because there's a lot going on there. Because really what it is the cover picture is on fire, but then that's a picture of him burning his card, and then behind that is another picture of the Avengers that you can see through. So there's actually 3 levels because they did it that way. If they had just put the burn hole entirely within the body of his card, like made the card just the full size of the page, and then put the burn hole in the middle, then you would have been there wouldn't have been that extra, wall to break of the cover. It would have just been burning his Avengers ID card, and then what do you see behind it are the Avengers. That would have been awesome. As it stands, I really do like this cover. I've always enjoyed this cover. It's pretty cool. And speaking of funny covers, I've always thought this cover was great. Thor 462. Google it real quick if you want to see it. I don't even know who's on it. It looks like Thor, and I think that might be Phastos and Ares, maybe. But like his head is representationally oversized on it, and he just looks like he's eating them. That's what it looks like. He looks like he's eating the other two dudes on the cover, and it's always made me chuckle because Thor is hungry and he's coming for you. She-Hulk is on issue 51. This is when Byrne came back to the book for the second time, and if you didn't catch She-Hulk last week, do catch it. It's really, really it's a whole lot of fun. I liked it a lot. I did not think it was a great pilot episode, and then I found out later on why. It's because it wasn't. It was originally something like the 7th episode, literally. But they said in test screenings, people wanted to know her origin right away, so they moved it. I think that was a mistake because it doesn't feel like a good pilot episode, but it's a fun episode. But it just feels like a weird way to start a show. Anyway, but it's Tatiana Maslany. Tatiana, the lead actress, is great. She's wonderful, and the CG is not as bad as it looked in those first trailers. I think that might be why, because they shuffled around the order of stuff. And then finally, the biggest thing actually starting this month, same month as this one, is that huge crossover, Maximum Carnage. It starts in Spider-Man Unlimited #1, and it crosses it's like a 19-part crossover. It hits all the Spider books. They did a really good video game for the Sega Genesis for it, and it's Carnage making a bunch of other symbiotes and teaming up with every other like New York street-based hero, Cloak and Dagger, and a Deathlock shows up. The video game was great. I played that all the time in college, and that big huge crossover starts the same month as G.I. Joe 136.
Now, mass is ready.
That's right. Now we are going to look at G.I. Joe 136, or should I say Snake Eyes 136, guest starring G.I. Joe and featuring Ninja Force. I just, right out of the gate, I'm going to say it, I don't like this cover. And let me get into the reasons why. I don't like Scarlett's pose. It's really getting into that. Normal people don't stand that way. Awkward image stylings of the era. Look at her neck. Her chin is just so weirdly chiseled, where then the right side of her neck is just erupting, about to swallow her head. That's weird to me. Not a fan. I don't like that it's off-centered. I know that's not perfect. It's not, exact, and it's because of her sword, which makes sense, I guess, but I don't know. I just don't like it. The Ninja Force is barely hidden. It's totally hidden on the page. So you can't even really tell what it says. So why bother even putting it there? If you're going to do the G.I. Joe starring Snake Eyes, just say G.I. Joe starring Snake Eyes. If you can't actually show the Ninja Force, which you don't, on there because of the placement of this, just drop the Ninja Force part. It just doesn't work. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. And then the billowing drape in the background, is that supposed to be the American flag? If it is supposed to be the American flag, that's kind of cool, but make it the American flag. Because what they did is it's just a piece of drapery, and the only and it's red, but it's outlined in red, like done in red ink. But it's not stripes. It's not like red and white stripes. It should be red and white stripes. That would be cool if this was an American flag. That would be neat, because then it would get like, why is Cobra Commander standing in front? I don't know what it would represent, but it would mean more than just this white drapery with red accents going over it. Because if they are trying to say it's like a huge American flag, it doesn't come across as that. That's kind of a fail on that one. So yeah, not a fan of this cover. I gotta be honest. Also, this book did come with another trading card. Talked about the other trading card at the end of the episode. Might as well get to it now for this one. Mine came with Scarlet being choked out by a Night Creeper. Well, kudos to them for doing this crazy Night Creeper helmet, because that's a crazy helmet on paper. It's crazy on the action figure, and it's crazier in real life, especially because the proportions of it make it so huge on the head, and then you see this like tiny non-muscular arm. Whoever the actor was, no offense, no shade, whoever the actor was, they're not exactly sporting the Rock like guns in that uniform. It's a wild looking costume, and for Scarlet, they could not have chosen a worse redheaded wig. I feel like all the actual redheads of the world should get together, go to every redhead wig shop, and like protest, strike, form a union, burn it all to the ground, because that's the absolute worst redheaded wig you could have found for it. You can't see much of the costume, otherwise, it seems fine. She does have the word, I believe that is the words Ninja Force on her forearm. Yes, they absolutely are. That's really funny. And kudos to them for making the effort. I do. I appreciate the effort on these. And like I said, the Duke one last month looked pretty good. And this one looks okay. It's just the redhead wig is terrible. And the dimensions on that Night Creeper helmet is wild. Just absolutely wild.
Yo, Joe!
Reversals and betrayals. Larry Hama script. Andrew Wildman pencils. Stephen Baskerville pens and brushes. It is a fancy way of saying inks. Rick Parker's the Undertaker. And Bob Sharon is the pallbearer. And David Off the Wall is the underboss. And Tom the Big Guy DeFalco is the man in charge. Why they went with those descriptors, I have absolutely no idea. It seems like it's weird because Larry and Andrew are normal, and everyone else goes a little wacky. But we open with the Ninja Force in action, which is something we've not seen a lot of. We've seen a lot of the Ninja Force, just not necessarily in action doing things. And they're climbing that building. So if you remember last time, Snake Eyes spotted a bunch of Night Creepers going into Storm Shadow's old hideout, the one in the water tower. If you guys remember back in the day, it's like where he trained Billy and all that stuff. And so apparently Snake Eyes went ahead of them to confront those guys. And so once again, in that regard, the Ninja Force is left behind to do nothing, but they are catching up. And we'll see just exactly how much they do. But it's Storm Shadow and Shebang and Dojo, Jinx, and Nunchuck.
Yo, Joe!
Also, there's an advertisement for the film Cop and a Half, starring Burt Reynolds, one of my all-time favorite movie legends. One kid's fantasy, one cop's nightmare. I worked at the movie theater at the time. All I'm going to say on the subject is I did take a date to see Cop and a Half once. Not one of my prouder date films, but it happened, and I'm here to tell about it. I'm not going to lie. So we have a nice 2-page spread. It's not bad, as 2-page spreads go. It does the job for sure. And apparently we're kind of getting caught up in the middle of the action, which is cool. Snake Eyes has his hands up in not necessarily surrender, but in like, you got me. They all have their crossbows aimed at him. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's at least 8 Night Creepers there. Might be a little bit more. The ninjas all reach the top of the building. Their swords and crossbows, and it's funny. Storm Shadow says, like, we're here to help Snake Eyes. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, there's 8. Did I say 9? There's 8. 8 Night Creepers. And they do notice the other ninjas. So as far as ninja stealth goes, not really stealthy. I don't like the way Snake Eyes is drawn. I'm going to put an aesthetic commentary out there, which is something I try not to do. I think his proportions are way off. I think everything's getting a little wild here. It's a little less natural. It's a little more, we're drawing a Ken doll here in a real way. And I don't know if this is from like maybe, drawing off of the action figures, but like his legs are really out of proportion. Just human musculature and human just like the way the clothes sit, even on the night creepers, the way that their legs join to their waist crotch area, that's not natural. That's not. It's just it's off, and I'll say what it is. It's that Image era. It's the Image stuff. So I don't mean to harp on it, but I will. So this is a 2-pager.
Yo, Joe!
You know, so now we're on we're on page 4, where Storm Shadow is telling the other ninjas, don't interfere, which is hilarious because don't interfere is all that the Ninja Force has done for the last 12 issues, is not interfere with anything. They go places, they get captured, they get trussed up, and then they don't interfere. But in this case, it's because he trusts Snake Eyes has it, and Snake Eyes certainly seems to. He drops into a little crouch, and he makes his move, and he jumps into what Larry says is a praying mantis, and then he attacks.
Yo, Joe!
All the crossbows fire. Snake Eyes gets 2 more on the kill count. Let's add that up. 2 more on the Snake Eyes kill count. 1, 2. I'm going to say kills because it looks like throat cuts. Then the arrows, it's that classic move of get them to point at him, but really they're aiming at each other. And then when he moves, all the crossbow bolts hit the other ninjas. I'm not giving him credit for those deaths, although one definitely gets hit in the neck, so he's dead. One is gut shot, one is kind of chest shot. The other one goes through the guy's body. Those body shots, they may live, but that, I'm going to say the neck shot, he gone. But I'm not giving Snake Eyes credit for that because that's on those ninjas. Snake Eyes did not cut their throats out like he did the other 2 Night Creepers. I love this moment. Larry says they're masters of the arcane martial arts disciplines, but they are still accountants at heart. And so they look at 2 to 1 and they attack. So they think they have the advantage, right? Because they're accountants. They just go by simple numbers, which is a really neat, subtle way to put it. I enjoy that quite a bit.
Yo, Joe!
Snake Eyes makes his move. Definitely one more kill because that guy's grabbing his throat. So Snake Eyes gets a 3rd kill this issue. The guy grabbing his guts or his chest, he might not be dead. Oh, wait. Hold on. Time out. They both fell off the building. That is another kill count. So that is 2, 3, 4, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. We're now up to 56 kills for Snake Eyes. 56 kills, counting since issue 1. Good job, Snake Eyes. Yeah, those 2 dudes fell off a building. They're gone. But he also points out that there's 5 more ninjas in the water tank. So they have to creep up and make their way. So finally, will we see Ninja Force do something?
Yo, Joe!
Sort of. Because as the Joes slip into there, first it is Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow doing all the work. But then we do get some panels with the rest of the Ninja Force actually mowing down some dudes. So yes, the Ninja Force does fight some people. And they do take out some Night Creepers. And Jinx smartly yells that they need a prisoner. And they also notice that there's a video display. Now, here's what's neat about this whole page. Without you realizing it, you're watching a video screen the whole time. If you look closely in the very first panel, you absolutely see that that it's a video, that there's like a video timer in the corner. It says like 1 minute, 21 seconds. And it's got to be seconds. It's not minutes. So within 5 seconds, at 1:21, they enter. At 1:26, Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. So 5 seconds later, they kind of make their first kill or attack. 2 seconds after that, Jinx and one of the other ninjas, Shebang Dojo, I can't remember who. 2 seconds later, they make it. 1 second after that, they pose. And then 1 second after that, they smile for the camera. So the whole attack took 10 seconds, which is neat. Now, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Because at the bottom when it says SPAC, meaning like they cut the video, the little timer in the corner goes to 0. So I don't really know what the time code is meaning. It can't be minutes. It just can't be minutes. They didn't fight for 10 minutes inside that thing. They killed those dudes in 10 seconds. Come on.
Yo, Joe!
And good storytelling. You then flip to where they're watching the video, which is great. And it's a nice way to get us away from the ninjas and into the next part of like the B plot. And it's one of the it's back at Cobra headquarters, and it's one of the Night Creepers explaining to Cobra Commander what's going on. I like the detail in these conversational moments with Wildman. I like this detail that he does. I don't like his action stuff. I think I like his more contemplative panels where it's people sitting around being nasty to each other. But as soon as it gets to action, I think he relies on the exaggerated, posings and screaming faces and things like that personally turns me off. It may not, you may love it, but I think that's what it is for me. Because whenever he draws, Cobra Commander sitting around, there's nice hatch work. The inking's good. Maybe inking wise, I'd maybe spot a little more black, like make things a little heavier, give a little more weight to things, not make it as hatchy in some places. But for the most part, there's acting. Road Pig has an emotion. The detail in Cobra Commander is always good. The Night Creepers certainly look better in the non-action moments. So it's interesting. I wonder if that was if it was a conscious thing he was working on or trying to expand, or when he would do the action, he would just try to make it a little more, like anime, a little more exaggerated. I don't know. But the Night Creeper points out that they've been this gets a little wild. So you remember last issue, Scarlet, quote unquote, left the Joe team. She left the ninjas. She was upset that they didn't invite her to be a ninja. So one of the Night Creepers, the accountants, which is a nice bit of foreshadowing on the previous page, pointing out their accountants. So then in this one, when the Night Creeper says, our network penetration specialists, the Night Hackers, which is funny, they access the U.S. Army finances. They get the pay records, and they see that Scarlet, she took all of her accumulated leave time. She changed her insurance beneficiary from Snake Eyes to her sister, who we all knew she had beef with, and she flew off for a ski vacation in the Alps. And it says it could be that the Lady Joe is unhappy and vulnerable. Now,
Yo, Joe!
I think that's reading a little bit into it. That's one of those like, all right, how, really? Like that's enough to get them to, execute this big plan, right? So, but for a comic book to get the ball rolling, it works. There's lots of shades of the Dusty Trader episode in this, which, that this plot is something that's played out in a lot of these adventure books where there's, one agency plotting against the other. You find someone who's unhappy, and you either actually turn them or you fake a turn and make them a double agent and all that stuff. So that's fun. I enjoy it. I'm here for it, but it is kind of flimsy evidence. Like, she took a vacation. She must be a traitor to the United States government. Like that's the leap that we're getting to. So Scarlet is now in the in Gstaad, Gstaad, Switzerland. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Don't even at me on that one. And Scarlet's skiing, and someone yells her name, Scarlet, and she's like, "Hey, that's my code name." Of course, she is wearing the scarlet, green, and yellow. Her ski outfit has to be color matched to her fighting togs. But she is met on the ski slope by Zarana and Road Pig. And Zarana's trying to get the job offer into Scarlet's face. But Road Pig pulls a Sonny Bono and bashes into a tree.
Yo, Joe!
Angering Zarana, of course. And now Zarana loses her stuff and is, now fighting with Scarlet. So this is fun. This is very James Bondy, right? Which is also very much like the whole, this person is unhappy, let's get them to, leave. What was the 007? What was it? well, Her Majesty's MI6. You know, let's get him to leave MI6 and, you know, go work for Spectre. That's right. It took me a second. Sorry. You know, so it's a fun little ski slope moment. I would say this. I would pull back more on this panel. There's a lot of close-ups here in these 2 pages. Actually, 3. The next page included.
Yo, Joe!
I would find ways to get a bigger picture of where she's at. You know, like the first is kind of a half splash page. You could barely see that she's in the mountains. And then it's a lot of like medium close shots where they're getting the full body but like the skis are defining the panels. And it works, but it doesn't give a sense of grandeur. I think one of the reasons why those scenes work in James Bond movies is when the camera pulls back and you see just this big snow, you know, just this ski slope, snow covered mountain that they've been going down. And there's no moments like that in these 3 pages. So I would do something like that just to give you a bigger sense of placement. There's nothing saying that she's in the Alps other than the caption that says she's in Switzerland, right? So style, like panel wise, that would be a comment. But Scarlet starts to beat the hell out of Zorana, and then Road Big shows up with a contingent of Snow Vipers, and it's you know, in his usual multiple personalities. I say I must insist that you terminate your brutal pummeling of Zorana's countenance and listen to the deal we want to offer you. It's funny.
Yo, Joe!
Always makes me chuckle. So now it just jumps, and this was awkward. This was a weird one. And I like it. Once you learn it, I like it. But it is an awkward jump because it just says meanwhile at Andrews Air Force Base in Virginia. So that means, you know, like that's concurrent. That's meanwhile. And we get the bunch of night creepers breaking in, and they're going after the stealth fighter, this B-2 stealth bomber that's on the tarmac. They're going to try to steal it, you know. And there's some cruise missiles involved and so on and so forth. And they're making their move towards it.
Yo, Joe!
And the bomber starts taking off down the runway. So this is a very Fast and Furious moment here. So they're some of the night creepers are going to jump inside the bomber to steal it as it takes off. Although how they're doing this, this seems like that bomber would be long gone. But just as they're jumping up, the Joes jump down, which is, it's awkward. This whole thing's awkward because it's having to be explained verbally versus seeing it. Because like if you just watch it, it's really not apparent that they successfully got into it before the Joes jumped down. Like it's just awkward and weird. But there is Hawk and Roadblock. Not just any old Joes. Hawk and Roadblock.
Yo, Joe!
Pardon me, Duke and Roadblock. I also got that mixed up last week with Crocmaster and Killer Croc. But Duke and Roadblock is the new look Duke. And so now Duke and Roadblock are on the Paralyzer that Cobra's driving. And in the plane that the Night Creepers got into, the ninjas are waiting for them. So it's Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes, and they take out these 2 Night Creepers. But they actually capture them. And so they're trying to capture them for information, I guess. So it's like this whole thing was a setup, and it's a lot. Like it seems like a lot of things had to go really right, really fast in order for that to happen, you know. It doesn't seem like a proactive, let's put it this way. It doesn't seem like a proactive trap if their goal here was to capture some night creepers.
Yo, Joe!
And we see that Wild Bill is flying it. And once again, though, gotta say, Ninja Force didn't do anything. Snake Eyes Storm Shadow did everything. Ninja Force, not much. Sorry. I've got a dog on my lap right now that is very feisty, but she's gonna not go anywhere because, you know, oh yeah, you can hear that, you're barking. So it's a little bit of exposition here, and Jinx's why attempt a preemptive strike against the G.I. Joe Ninja Force? And this creeper says it's too late. The rebirth of Cobra Commander. He's setting up shop in a new location, and he's going global. He's going to supply armaments to every feuding tribal faction on the face of the planet. Storm Shadow confronts him and says, where is this new headquarters? Now, artwork on this page, I dig. It's a little static, but I like it. Like, this is I like the details on this. I like the hatching. Like, I like this page versus some of the action pages.
Yo, Joe!
Shirley likes it too. Hey, how you doing, girl? So, this is where I'm a little confused, because now we go back to Destro's castle in the Transcarpathian Alps. And it's a Baroness and Destro, and they're chilling. And you remember they kind of semi-retired. Out of the fireplace, Slice and Dice show up. I love it. I think it's wild. It's absolutely insane. They just burst out of an in-use fireplace. Absolutely burst out of it, which is pretty wild.
Yo, Joe!
They outnumber and outclass Destro, as they're saying. But Bernice is also, she's making her move, and she gives as good as she gets. Except they kind of surrender. They're going to listen to what Slice and Dice have to say. And I could keep this banter up for hours, but duty calls. So we're back to the Destro Castle plot lines.
Yo, Joe!
And that's where I go, enough with this. We're just telling the same stories. We've revisited this Silent Castle, Destro's Castle, so many times in the last 2 years worth of stories. I'm not even joking. The Ninja Force and the castle and the transforming castle, and we're just going around in circles. So we see that Cobra Commander is actually flying outside. He gets a signal from Slice and Dice that they've taken the castle from Destro. And the prisoners are Dr. Biggles Jones and Scarlet. They're in the hold. And they've changed Scarlet into her combat togs, which she, thanks them for.
Yo, Joe!
It's funny. Road Pig is reading a copy of the X-Men comic book, which is awesome. Now, they land. They've taken over this castle pretty easily. Basically, Cobra Commander just walks in, which is wild, because there was the whole big 3-episode arc of them trying to take over this castle from Destro last time, and he couldn't do it this time. A couple ninjas, and he takes it over. Anyway, it is good Cobra Commander stuff, though. Don't get me wrong. Cobra Commander is portrayed like this is absolute top tier Cobra Commander. He's arrogant. He takes what he wants. He's gonna lock everyone up in the sub dungeons, as he calls them.
Yo, Joe!
And again, Larry reminds us via Destro that the term dungeon is actually a misnomer. It's actually a sub-cellar, etc., and so on and so forth. But we are reminded that the castle itself kind of transforms. Cobra Commander pulls the lever, and the castle is starting to take shape and do stuff. It'll take a little bit for it to fully transform, but they're being held in the same dungeon that Destro. When I say they, I mean Destro and Baroness are being held in the same dungeon as Scarlet was all the way back in issue 21, the silent issue.
Yo, Joe!
And we're wrapping up with just 2 quick pages of it's just a lot of exposition here of Cobra Commander explaining his plot to them. That he's making his pitch to him that Biggles Jones, you've risen as far as you're ever going to rise because you're a woman in a male-dominated industry, etc. Scarlet, the Joes disregarded you, so you should come work for us. We're just being rational, blah, 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 like that. So he's making his pitch to these 2 ladies.
Yo, Joe!
And again, I really like the artwork on that last page. And then we finally get to this, and he says he's offering market shares. He's offering a piece of the rock, which is an allusion to an old insurance commercial that ran at the time. I'm offering a chance to be all you can be, which is an allusion to the military commercial, and to join Cobra, and they'll get like ownership stake in Cobra. And Scarlet says, I'm in. Biggles Jones is in. He says, excellent. You will both, of course, have to prove yourself. So he's not just going to take their word on it, while he's making his move. So, like, the things that transpire in this issue, and then that's it. There's no letters page. The things that transpire in this issue, I like. It's just, I feel like we've seen this all. And then the concept of, like, Cobra Commander's, quote, going global. Cobra had a island. They had a table at the UN. They were global. They were legitimate. I don't understand what, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you're restarting it just to, your lawnmower is already running. You don't have to pull the cord again to restart it. That's kind of what Cobra Commander's doing. They were already selling, terror drones to every country. And you know what I mean? Like, they were doing that already. So, and I think I know where this is going there, especially with the quote unquote transforming castle. So maybe that's part of what they were alluding to there, as far as Cobra Commander's next big plans. But anyway, yeah, so there's a lot of that. It's like a soft reboot of Cobra, which I guess is needed. You've been going 136 issues. I guess it might be needed, but anyway. So yeah, so overall so we're getting their issue. More Ninja Force, a lot of ninjas doing a lot of nothing. But when you have that many ninjas, how can a ninja do everything all day? And that's really the fable that I want you guys to think about. When you have that many ninjas, how can a ninja do everything all day? And with that, now you Joe. And Joeing is half the battle.